All right, hear me out. I don't really do a lot of story times, but I'm going to right now. And here's why. I get a lot of comments on my videos that are like, typical woman, all women are the same, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, everybody needs to just fucking slow down a bit, because we're all not the same, in the sense that all men aren't cheaters, or all men aren't liars, or all men aren't this. Same with all women aren't that. We need to like slow her down just a little bit and still see that we're individuals and we make our own choices. So here's something a lot of people don't know about me. I mean, I know a lot of people know I'm completely unorthodox, but here's something you wouldn't know if you didn't read my book. I was married at 19 because I was pregnant at 18. Now, when I found out I was pregnant, keep in mind, we used two forms of birth control. We used a condom, and I was on birth control pills. Now, this is a long time ago because now I'm 47. So I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified because at 16, my whole house like was ripped out. Like my parents split, everything. Like I just didn't know what the future was going to hold, and I was terrified. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't know what I was going to do because we were dating, but we weren't married at the time. And I remember knowing it's all my choice. I don't need anybody else's input. But that did not make me feel empowered more, so to speak. I still wanted to have conversations around this because I did feel confused. So after a few days, I went back and we spoke about it. And I said, hey, all I want to know from you is that this child, our child, if I choose to have it, will never, ever, ever worry about food or shelter. I need to know that from you. Because me, as a young 18-year-old girl who is living on her own and like trying to find her way, might not be able to do that if things don't work out. So if we're going to do this, I need to know that you're never going to let this child fail, because I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to do it alone. And if I have to do it alone, I don't know if I want to do it at all. He made the promise. We agreed. Our son turned 28 yesterday. When our son was 2, I was struggling really hard in my mental health, Matt, and I was like, I haven't done anything for myself. I've lived in survival mode for so long, growing up, and then like, my parents and everything, and like just moving provinces and not really sure, and just the whole upheaval of everything. And I was feeling like lost, and I didn't have an identity. Meanwhile, the gentleman I was married to was a little bit older, just a couple years older, 2 years older. And he traveled the world and had done so much. And he was like, starting his career and everything. And I was like, I didn't go to university. I didn't go to school. Like, how am I going to continue to better my life in that? And slowly, as, feelings started to settle in, and I started to come out of feeling like, I was trapped in that and wondering about life. Well, it was time to go. I couldn't stay in the marriage because I wasn't mature enough to be married. I got married because I was afraid. I was nowhere near intelligent enough to know what a partnership like marriage would entail. No idea. Zero. I was so selfish and right about everything. I had an affair, and I told him immediately, and that I wanted a divorce. And I wish so desperately I would have done that in reverse, and I didn't. When we, months rolled on, and we knew we were heading for divorce, and I knew I wanted to do something different with my life. I was going to go to university. I always wanted to go to university. I started applying to schools. We have a 2-year-old, and I'm standing there knowing we're parting ways, and we have a 2-year-old. My husband at the time is stable. Great job. Lots of family supports. Well known in the community. I want to go to university. We live in small town Saskatchewan. They don't have a university. I also don't want to live there anymore. I want to be able to have the freedom and not the judgment. Him and I decide that I'm going to go to university, 3 hours away. Our son will stay in the home. the home that we bought when we got married. And he would live with his father, who was very stable. His father, my husband at the time, as a gesture, moved my mother into the house so that our son would still have influence from my family and my mother would be close to him. He also went beyond that. And on the weekends, I would go down and stay at the house and he would go and visit his girlfriend. Or we would meet halfway and, and swap, things like that. I left the house. The lawyer tried so hard. He's like, you should take the furniture at least. What am I going to do? Strap it on my car and head for university? My son's staying in the house. Why would I want to take the house? We had a verbal agreement that everything I left would just be rolled over and given to our son. I trust that. I still trust that. I know I'm unorthodox in so many ways, and I took a lot of fucking flack for being a mother and not taking my child from that home and to university with me, where I was living in a studio suite and he would have been in a daycare for probably 12 hours a day because society told me that I was a bad mother if I didn't. See, it was at that time that I started to break away of what society told me I should be doing. And I started to decide for myself what I could live with and what was right. I'm really embarrassed by how I ended my first marriage. And it was a lot of reflection in that made me realize that perhaps I was not in the best state to also be a single full-time parent. In my hardest times, when it would have felt best to choose what was best for me, I had to choose what was best for my son, because that's what truly being a good parent is about. I'm sharing this with you because I've had like a wealth of my own bullshit that I've created and come out of, because I'm not standard. And I definitely am unorthodox, and I get a lot of fucking kickback for that. But the alternative would have been taking my son out of the only home he had ever known just because I'm the mother. Like, how does that make any fucking sense when all the safety and security was right there? This is why I'm really hell-bent on everything can't be uniform. We can't use some just giant fucking, blueprint of like what should be. I don't know. What's best for you? What's best for your family? Can you move in that and not what's public opinion? What's popular? Yeah, I get a lot of flack, but I'm okay with that, because I know that in every single instance, I always knew that my son was in the best possible place and that I was working hard to be the second of the best possible places.